All right, so we are live, and this is the JB show. This is episode 122. Actually, this is my 122nd show. Thank you guys for joining us today. I have a live interview today that I'll be doing with Karen. Karen, how do you say your last name? Waksman? Did I say it right?
I don't know. Did you say it?
Waksman?
Waxman, yes.
Waxman, okay. And I'll be talking to her very shortly. First, we're going to get through our sponsor. Our sponsor, as always, is My Fulfillment Team. My Fulfillment Team is a state-of-the-art inventory processing company. You source, we process, you profit. Really? Now my slides are going to mess up on me. Receive, store, prep, pack. Come on, slides. Receive, store, prep, pack, ship. Amazon Plus. What they'll do is they'll ship anything for you, whether it's for Amazon Merchant Build or Amazon FBA. They'll also do like for Walmart, your own website. They can kind of ship for all those programs. They're a specialized prep company you can trust, family owned and operated for 8 years plus, 9 years plus now, millions of items processed. Never touch your inventory again. Automate your process. Pay for only the services you need. Again, they can label, bubble, bag, bundle, you name it, they do it. They have their own software that they go through. So it's hands off for you. All you have to do is worry about getting your inventory, putting it into their software, and they will do the rest. Very, very time saving on your part. You can check them out at www.myfulfillmentteam.com. Again, they're family owned and operated for over 9 years. Specialized prep company you can trust. All right, guys, I have a very special guest with me today, Karen Waksman. And let me tell you a little bit about Karen. Karen is the founder and CEO of Retail MBA Brands, retailmba.com. You can check her out there. Is a manufacturer rep turned author, speaker, and consultant. She does it all. She has sold millions of consumer products to the world's largest retailer and now dedicates her time to teaching entrepreneurs how to market and sell their products to major retailers, online retailers, catalogs, and small retailers too. Karen has taught tens of thousands of product entrepreneurs and companies across the globe on subjects of selling to retailers. Her goal is to empower and inspire companies, I love that, to transform their business by providing them all the necessary information they need in order to become chain store vendors. Most importantly, Karen's clients have utilized the Retail MBA time-tested sales formula to get their products into retailers such as Walmart, Best Buy, Home Depot, Lowe's, Kroger's, grocery stores, Bed Bath & Beyond, Bye Bye Baby, Groupon, and much, much more. You can take a look at our success stories here. She has a success story. You can go to www.retailmba.com/testimonials, and you can check it out. Guys, today, the 3 takeaways I hope you have. Buyers are hungry for new products more than ever now. Coronavirus is an ideal time to start reaching out and preparing for chain store success. If you contact them the right way, they will happily review. No sales reps or distributors necessary, and it's easier than you think. I think that's the big question. Hey, Karen, welcome to my show. Thanks for being here. I know we talked to you. Let my audience know who you are and what you do and why you decided to go from being a big-time seller to a big-time helping sellers person.
Sure. So again, my name's Karen Waksman. I'm the founder of a company called Retail MBA. Over the last decade, I've taught tens of thousands of product companies across the globe on how to get your products into stores. I started my career out as a manufacturer's rep, which is a rep that sold products to retailers. And I eventually started teaching my methodology to help people out because I saw that what was happening in the retail space was that things were changing and evolving, and it was becoming a market where the average entrepreneur could learn simple steps to help themselves get into stores. Whereas back in the early 2000s, it was a very different experience, and I can explain all that. But ultimately, I had this aha moment of realizing that any person with a physical product who's willing to do a little bit of work and have a kind of a solid solution can move forward themselves and get their products in stores, and then ultimately make lots of money and get into the world's largest retailers and do it themselves. And so I tested my methodologies on a lot of people early on, and inventors, creative types, people who hated sales. and they started getting into the world's largest retailers, and I just love what I do. So I teach and I support and I educate, coach, and I help people connect with retailers. That's what I do.
Awesome. So what made you, take one step back. What made you want to sell? Because first of all, you were selling products. Where did you see the opportunity that, hey, I see all these people online selling. I think this is something that I want to try.
It kind of was different. I was actually a sales rep and I lived in New York, and I always had this weird interest in moving to New York and working in the fashion industry. Back then, that was what the original interest. You know, I was younger, I really wanted that. So I moved to New York, I followed my dream. I got a manufacturer to hire me. And for some reason I was just really pulled to learn how to sell products to stores. And when I got hired on by this guy, what I realized was it's a very elitist type thing where nobody was sharing how to actually talk to buyers and ultimately how to get them to buy and stuff like that. So I ended up having to learn the hard way how to talk to buyers, ultimately how to get them buy and so forth. And then eventually I started doing well. So I started selling products and things were moving and la la la. And then I started taking on other products in different categories. And that's how it sort of started. I started becoming pretty good at getting various products into the world's largest retailers. And ultimately I started eventually teaching my methodology. So that's how it started. I was a rep. I started figuring things out on my own. I suffered a while. It took a long time to figure it out. No one was teaching this stuff. And then eventually I became really successful at it. And that's kind of how it started. Does that make sense?
It does. So when you started, what are some of the things that you wish that you would have known, that maybe some of the mistakes that you made, that if there was people around at that time that maybe could have cut down your learning curve?
There was so many different variables, but I really had to understand the mindset of the buyer. So I really needed to understand that rather than me pitching her whatever I had in hand, I had to talk her language. And there was certain language that she needed to hear from me. And it's very individual for each different product and each different category, which is what I teach, like the actual explanations behind what she needs to hear. But ultimately, there's a language that only worked in retail. You see, the reason why I started helping people and understanding that there was some sort of process that I was doing to get random products in the stores was because my friend came to me with a product and he had been selling for 20 years. He was a very successful sales rep, but then when in other industries, but when he took a product, he thought, oh, I can get into stores. I'm a sales rep. I could use my sales skills. I could go after stores and, they'll just buy from me like everybody else does in every other industry that I've been in. And when he tried doing it, the buyers didn't even respond at all. Like he couldn't get anywhere for months and months. And he had been so successful in sales. When he did that, he came back to me months and months later and said, can you help me out? And I did a couple little things, and those couple of little things got a buyer to pay attention to us, and we got into Walmart in 2 weeks. And that's how it started. So what I realized was it wasn't about sales. It was about the verbiage, the things that the buyer wanted to hear. I spun the conversation around to make her feel like this was the right product for her. And again, it does vary based on product and so forth. That's why we, include coaching and stuff so we can look at people's products and extract the gold, because it's not like, whatever, but that's what I figured out. There was a way that they like to be spoken to in a very particular way. Otherwise, they don't answer phone, they don't answer their emails, they don't, pay attention to you. And that's just, retail is its own little world. And it was very annoying to me that nobody educated me on how important that was. Not like they would have helped me anyways. I just, but that's what I kind of figured out. Make sense?
So is that kind of like a job interview, the same type of thing when you go into a job interview that you basically you have to go in there and tell the company kind of what they want to hear versus you talking about yourself?
Yeah, you basically, but it's more than that because you got to extract the gold out of your product. Some people have sold a lot of products and so they have a great story, but maybe for that product, it's really a boring product, right? The whole world's selling it. Depends on the product. So you can't just go with, I have this, I've sold a ton of units if it's a boring product and nobody cares. So we have to come up with a story for that person. Whereas there's another person who has a great idea, interesting innovation they haven't sold anywhere before. How do you express that to the buyer to make her believe it's going to sell? Because all she really cares about is buying products that are going to convert and things that matter to her, right? For her particular audience. So again, it requires some finessing. And I think you get my point here. It is about the buyer and what matters to her, but also it's a little bit more in that it really needs to be something that makes her believe that the product will be worthy of a test and interaction and so forth.
One of the things that I found out, because we do a lot of private label ourselves, is that when you try to talk to Walmart and some of these bigger chains, is that they want to beat up your pricing. They want to drill down your costs so that it's almost to the point where it's not profitable. In other words, you could be selling it on a platform, but they want an even better price, and they want to get it down so that, because Walmart is quote unquote a discount chain, they want that price to be down lower. How would you get around that based on the quality of your product and sell on the quality of it versus on the ultimate bringing the price down?
There's a lot to say on that topic because a lot of Amazon sellers really resonate toward Walmart. Walmart is the low price leader. That's their job, is to hammer you on price. So you're essentially going to the company that's automatically going to do that to you. Why are you doing that to yourself? There's hundreds, if not thousands, of massive, massive retailers that can spend a fortune and, make you a lot of money where you don't have to get hammered by this particular company. That there's nothing wrong with Walmart. I've done events with Walmart. I've taught workshops with Walmart buyers. Like I understand them very well. And you're actually asking for it if you're going directly to the Walmart scenario. Whereas, there are other retailers that aren't necessarily going to just beat you up to that level. So I would say that first. There are so many variables and angles, and what I see is that everybody always picks their top 3 retailer that they want to sell to. It happens all the time in my coaching. They want, if it's a low price product, they want Walmart, Target, la la la. If they want, higher price, they go to these 3 stores. But the problem with that is all your competitors are thinking the same way. And so they are able to do whatever they want to do because everyone is contacting them, all your competitors and so forth. And so they have a lot more room. Whereas if you kind of did a little more strategy work and figured out what other scenarios would work for you in your business, you might actually make a lot more money and not get hammered by that. Now, if you are going to really, really insist on going to Walmart on day one, where most big companies actually consider Walmart, but maybe they go elsewhere, make a bunch of money, then go to Walmart and create a separate product that's a little bit cheaper, that's not killing them. You know what I mean? Have you noticed that, where they have a great product in one store and it's slightly different at Walmart because it's a cheaper version? There's ways to work around this so you don't harm your business completely. So there's a lot of strategies around that. Does that make sense? But if you were going to talk to a buyer and she is hammering you, I taught, I taught this workshop with one of the Walmart buyers, and she said, look, there are certain products that I really, really think are amazing and they can't get the price down. And you know what? When that happens, sometimes I just do it anyways because I think I'll make money on it no matter what. So it doesn't always happen. Depends on an individual situation and circumstance. And as a business owner, if you're not making any money on it, you got to reassess the situation too. So I hope that sort of answered your question.
Yeah, and I think people would be afraid to. How would someone go about, let's say they have a product, they know they're doing well with it on Amazon, and they want to approach like a major chain, not a Walmart or a Target, but maybe more like I would say more like I wouldn't say a niche company, but I would say something that is more in a niche or more I can't even think of the word right now. more geared toward a specialty type shop or a specialty type store.
Yeah, like Best Buy for consumer electronics products or stuff like that.
I couldn't come up with that for some reason.
So it's the same thing. So how you reach out to buyers, it's a complicated question because it's not something I can answer in a second here.
Right.
Things you got to set up. There's like a lot of moving parts. It's like if you sell on Amazon. Before you sell on Amazon, you got to do some prep work. There's some things that you have to do, right? You have to set up your pictures, photography, the copy. You got to make sure your SEO is right. You got to figure out which product you're going to, like all the different nuances. And then, like there's a lot of like, you got to get your UPC codes. There's just a lot of things with retailers. There's like prep work the same way. And then from there, once you figure that out, there's a few other nuances that get a lot of people stuck, right? Like packaging and or knowing if your pricing is correct. And, there's things that you got to kind of work through a little bit, not complicated, but important. And then the actual reach out is after you come up with your story as to why the buyer should be interested in your product. And again, it really does depend on the individual person, the situation. It's not really a blanket thing because you may, like, I can look at a product and say, oh, you have this, like you're telling me this, but the buyer's going to look at it this way. So part of it is just getting a little bit of support. I don't know how else to explain it. Does that make sense? Sort of. So I don't know how to answer that. But if you want to go niche, you can look at it a couple ways. So if I had a consumer electronics product, would I go directly to Best Buy? Sure, but I'm going to also be aware that I might get rejected more than if I went to another retailer. Not because the product isn't great, but it's just because every consumer electronics company is calling Best Buy. So they have a lot more ability to say no. There are other retailers that have aisles of consumer electronics that you could sell to and you can get into, and maybe some of your competitors are not thinking about. So you can kind of start working that out there, show some sales, so show some proof, and then go back to Best Buy. It doesn't mean you shouldn't call Best Buy, but just be aware that, that does happen. So sometimes what happens with people, with retailers, is that they start going after stores and they're getting rejected and they think like, nobody likes my product, so retail isn't really good for me. It's actually not true. You probably, number one, need to tweak something that you're saying to get the buyer to convert, or you're reaching out to buyers and you just quit too soon. That's the other, or you're going after the low price leader, which is killing you on price. So you assume that all retailers are doing that. Or, it's kind of like you don't know what you don't know. So, or if you go up to Best Buy and they're rejecting you, doesn't mean that you don't have a great product. It just, that particular retailer has a lot of things moving going on in that particular world, which is actually sometimes not a benefit for you. You still want to go after them, but just don't take it internally, personally. And that kind of cuts off a lot of opportunity for people. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, and I think the other thing is too, a lot of people have the misconception that with their product is like, okay, the store already sells this. Why would they want my product? Maybe it might be a different version of it or something.
Well, I mean, you can convince a buyer to buy a lot of stuff. Haven't you seen some of the stupidest products in stores? I mean, it's not always about, it's about you convincing. So it's not, how do I explain it? Buyers are finicky. They're looking for that next new product because their customers are looking for that next new product. Right. So they're going to constantly be evolving. I'll give you an example. There was a woman who was an Amazon seller, and I guess for a while, like, you guys get stuck on certain products because you see it converting and then everybody starts jumping on it. So she had a board game that had rubber bands, right? I guess it was a hot thing for a while. I don't know. I'm not an Amazon seller per se, but they were basically, a rubber band board game. And so she looked at that product and she was doing really well with it. And she understood retail after we started working together. And what she did was understand that she needed to create a slightly better version of an existing product. So there's nothing really new in the world. There were other board games with like the rubber bands. All she did was listen to the reviews, listen to what was going on, what people were telling her about the board game. She improved it, made it slightly better. And once she understood that, she went to, Michael's store. And I guess they were selling a similar board game. And she said, I have this board game. It wasn't that new. It was just a little bit better. And they wanted to buy 50,000 units on the spot for the holidays. Why? Because she had a product that was just slightly better, slightly improved. They already knew it was going to sell. So the deal was made because they wanted that better opportunity. Now, she actually turned down that deal because she didn't want to stress out on 50,000 units. It just was too big for her. I can't help that. They renegotiated and got a smaller sale. You know what I mean? But still, the point is that it wasn't so phenomenally different. It was just a slightly better version. And you guys are probably doing that anyways, considering that you guys are always having to improve because you guys are fighting each other for space online. So you have to make your product a little bit better a lot of times through your reviews and stuff like that.
So basically you're talking about, and I'm familiar with that, and a lot of Amazon sellers do that, but they do it to make the product better, to sell it, to flip it back on Amazon, which is not always the best thing, but they go through the reviews and they look to see what's wrong with the product, and then they see if they can get it manufactured and fix those issues that was wrong with the product. I see a lot of them do that. You're saying, now you said that she was able to go to the store and they gave her 50,000. Did she have to have any marketing with her to go to the store? Or did you say, hey, I was selling this on Amazon, I re-improved it, and I'd like to sell you 50,000 of these? How did she get into that? What was her
well, the essence of, well, I'm just trying to give you the essence of it. The concept was she had this product, she was doing well on Amazon, she kept improving it as she needed to be able to keep selling on Amazon. She was always intrigued by retail. She learned some strategies, understood what retail wanted. She used the words about her product being a better version of an existing product and other things or whatever,
right,
grabbing all the good stuff about her product.
keyword.
Went to Michael's. Michael saw it right away because there's a lot of reasons why a retailer buys. One reason is because it's new, interesting, innovation, brand new, and that's pretty rare, but sometimes they see a new hot thing. Another reason is market demand. Everybody loved the other board game, so they didn't have a newer version. She's bringing him something that's going to be easy to sell, and the buyer knew it was going to convert. So yeah, she's going to give her a bigger, larger order. And most of the time, they don't start with such big quantities initially. They'll test. But in her case, the buyer was like, this is a slam dunk. I know, because that buyer's always looking for new versions of that product, and she just came at the right time,
right,
you know, and supporting in that way. Other reasons why a buyer buys, maybe you're just crushing it on Amazon and someone like Walmart just wants it on their website because they know they'll make money, because the Amazon customer is not necessarily on the Walmart.com website. It might be a different customer. You know, there's a lot of reasons why buyers buy. I have a lot of customers who've never sold a single thing and got into major chain stores, like a single unit. But they were able to get the buyer to believe that the product was going to convert. Part of it because it was a good product and or the way that you were positioning it, or we convinced them it was a good test product. You know what I mean? And so it happens all the time. So there's no one reason. So, but in her case, that was what happened.
right. All right, so let's see. I'll go back to my questions. Why is today the best time ever to sell to a chain store? That's an interesting question.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, there's a lot going on with the coronavirus and everything, and everybody's assuming that retailers are shut down and it's like a terrible time and la la la. But besides that, the main reason is because buyers more than ever are hungry for new products and new innovation and new things to put on their sites, and they have the internet. They have a lot of opportunities now, where back in early 2000s, they always typically just bought from their friends, from big manufacturers and so forth. It was very consistent, but they were always, you know, they didn't work with the small guy. They didn't want to work with the small, they didn't have to. But then about 10 years or so ago, the internet started blowing up and people were buying things, and all of a sudden the fat cats and retailers couldn't just do what they were always doing. They had to change. And then Amazon showed up and started stressing them out, and they were losing market share. So they got to get off their butt and start, you know, doing different things. They had to learn how to start selling stuff online. They had to start bringing in products from people who had innovation. And who do you think has innovation? The small guy who can hustle. You know, they can't rely on those big manufacturers anymore. So a lot shifted, which is why I started teaching this stuff, because I realized it was a lot more formulaic. And since when I first started up until the last years ago, and now why it's better than ever, because these buyers are literally willing to work with you guys fairly easily and test things out constantly because they don't have a choice. And the other thing is that buyers change jobs now every 6 months to a year. Back in the day, they would stay there for years and years and they would never leave their jobs. Now, the buyers, it's very common that you reach out to a buyer and 6 months later, she's not there anymore. The retailers are rotating them around to make sure there's no emotional connection, that they're only picking great products. You can't send them gifts during the holidays. You can't do anything anymore. You can't hang out with them. You can't go to dinners with them. You can't do anything. They really needed to cut all that stuff out and make sure that they were just looking for new products to enhance their assortment to sell. So it's an amazing time to sell to retailers because it's in your favor now. It's kind of flatlined for you. You know what I mean? They have so many ways to test you now. If they're not sure, they can put it on their website, which is fairly easy. And you know, that's a whole other audience that you might not have ever gotten access to before. they're willing to do a lot of different things now. So I hope that makes sense. In regards to coronavirus, a lot of people are thinking, they're shut down, they're not, working and stuff like that. But to be honest with you, the buyers have never been more able to contact you back because they're not traveling anywhere. They're not going anywhere. They're literally looking at new products constantly. We have programs where we do reach out for buyers on people's behalf. So we're practicing what we teach all the time. When we're reaching out, so we're contacting these retailers, they're responsive, they're buying. Even retailers that are completely shut down are actually preparing for that next move. They're not backing down. This is big money for them. As soon as the stores start opening up, they're on it. Plus, most of them have an online presence, so they're still selling. And it's not really something that most people are just going to have to trust me on because I've been doing this for 2 decades. They literally are buying right now, and they are answering the phones and whatever, being responsive if you reach out to them in a respectable way that they like and so forth. But generally speaking, it's been fantastic. And I've had a lot of customers tell me that they're shocked that they're actually getting through, that the buyers are actually saying, send samples or this or that. It's actually happening. So that's pretty rare because buyers are usually excessively busy. And right now they are able to focus and also change stuff up. And by the way, there's going to be a lot of people who may not be able to withstand this time, distributors and this and such. So there will be gaps in the marketplace when things start picking up again, which means there may be some holes in there for new suppliers to come in. So there's shakeups with these things. And are you going to be one of the people who are going to be part of that?
Yeah, it's interesting what you said about the buyers, and because I go back like what you're talking about, where I remember the perks for the buyers and stuff like that. And now, like you're saying, that they move around every 6 months, and they don't let them get any of that stuff because they don't want the favoritism out there, and they don't want any of that stuff where they feel like they owe somebody something. They don't want that image to be portrayed in that company. So I find that, that's interesting that they move more and more towards that. And you kind of said what the buyers kind of care about a little bit, but what are some of the ways, I guess, for some people that are on here that might be brand new?
Yeah.
They're probably like, how do I contact a buyer? I don't even know how to go about doing that.
I would not contact a buyer until you prepare for stores and get a little bit of assistance. Or I say that with love because usually people come to me 2 years after trying to do it ghetto, and then they come back. And if it's not me, someone else, you need a little bit more data. It's millions of dollars worth of opportunities. I have clients who sell on Amazon and then open one retail chain store account like TJ Maxx, and they're making millions of dollars with that one account. You know what I mean? It's a really great opportunity. It doesn't have to be mind-boggling difficult, but it does require just some prep work so that, you can not throw something against a wall and hope it sticks. You know what I mean? Like, just spend a little time figuring it out so that you can you can present to the buyer in a way that she'll pay attention to you. Otherwise, you end up delaying till the next buyer, and you know what I mean? Because maybe this buyer says no to you, and then you got to wait however long. So I would really recommend digging a little deeper and just getting some assistance from somebody who kind of understands the space a little bit. It's not like Amazon where, unfortunately, where you could just throw stuff up and then feel it out. You know what I mean? You want to make a lot of money with this. I mean, one person can make you millions and millions of dollars super easy. And once they get you in the door, there's amazing opportunities because all of a sudden all the other retailers and all the other buyers start thinking you're cool. It becomes a domino effect. One retailer says yes, the other ones are noticing that somebody said yes to you. They're looking at each other all the time. It turns into a magical experience. So that's what I would say about that. That's sort of
basically what you're saying is, if you have a product that you've been selling really well on Amazon and you want to get it onto a bigger marketplace that you feel that your product would do well in, reach out to someone like you that has experience in contacting these buyers and things like that.
I mean, yes and no. Like, what I really was trying to say was, first of all, you don't need to have a lot of sales to get into stores. I've said that a few times. People are really, just because you learned about selling on Amazon, it's not the only way people sell. So like inventors don't even think about selling on Amazon, and they go directly to stores. Like, if I had a physical product that I was trying to sell, I wouldn't necessarily go on Amazon. I would start directly with chain stores. I wouldn't necessarily go that route. So you know what I mean? Like,
right.
you have a physical product, you have a lot of ways to sell something, but people get so pigeonholed in one way. So no, even if you've barely sold anything on Amazon, you can leverage that and still sell it into stores, but it doesn't require a lot of rep, you know what I mean? A lot of like selling of your product. So I just wanted to make that clear. I forgot the second part. What were you asked me?
Sorry. Well, it's like an inventor. You said an inventor. An inventor will go to the store to sell his product. How does he go about finding who he needs to speak to? Does he go to at store level and start there? Where does he start?
So there are corporate buyers. And again, before you reach out to a corporate buyer, because you can buy lists. We sell a list of buyers' contacts. There's buyers lists, you can purchase. So there are buyer list contacts, literally finding the.
How do you find a legitimate one? Because you know as well as I do that there's lists out there that people sell just to sell.
I guess what I'm saying is don't buy a list until you learn what you're going to say to the buyer, because otherwise you're wasting your money and you are delayed. So that's what I'm saying. If you already knew what you were doing, which, I'm kind of feeling maybe some of your audience doesn't, just because, they're doing other things, my concern in sharing that is that they're going to go out and start contacting buyers because they can buy a list. You know what I mean? I really want to be careful on saying that, because I take it very seriously what I say. But if you were going to buy a list, be aware that the buyers change jobs very often. So people get cranky at lists because, you know what I mean? It needs to be constantly updated. We sell a list, and that list, we do our best and we update it every quarter and, all sorts of things. There are lots of stuff online. Now, one thing people tend to do is they tend to go on LinkedIn, find a buyer's contact and reach out to them via LinkedIn. It's a terrible idea. Buyers absolutely hate it when you reach out to them via LinkedIn, because that's their personal resume profile. That is not a respectable way to reach out to a buyer. So, there's things that you can do. You can submit your product on their website. You can go to Range Me, which is a company that submits, like that gets you in front of buyers. It's kind of similar to submitting your product online. We teach strategies where you actually find the appropriate buyer for your particular product. And there could be many buyers within a retail chain that you can go after. And then from there, you get your responses faster, and actually someone's looking at your product who could be the purchasing agent for your particular thing, versus submitting your product into the cloud and hoping that somebody responds. You know what I mean? Right.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. What makes buyers more inclined to buy my product?
So some of the things that we kind of talked about it, what makes them more inclined to buy, like that board game, market demand, right? Like
supply and demand.
Board game, it was a newer version. A guy I knew had a light that for kids that you hit and thing changes colors. It was a cute product. He was doing well on Amazon. And it was kind of interesting, like it was an interesting thing. And so the buyers thought it was interesting, and it was kind of a newer version, like, it was something kind of cool. And he crushed it. He took his product and got it in Bed Bath & Beyond, Target, Walmart, Nordstrom, like all the major retailers in a year and a half, because it was kind of cool. You know what I mean? I had other people who were selling supplements, and, like some of these retailers love guys who kill it online. So as part of our strategy, we talked about the fact that they were doing so well online, so that at least the buyer understands that, you know what I mean? Like this product is going to convert because we already show proof. So sometimes it's sales and stuff like that. So we kind of talked about some of that, but those are some of the essences of why a buyer buys. And professionalism. Like if you're going to reach out to a buyer, like sometimes I see people just piecing together a piece of crap marketing collateral that just doesn't look good, but like, they made it on the, on their computer, or they send them a 60-page, PowerPoint. Buyer's not going to review a whole PowerPoint. Like I see a lot of things that people do that kind of turn the buyer out. She doesn't have time to see that, or a 3D rendering of a product that's not ready yet. She can't really buy your product if it's not ready to be purchased right now. So people do a lot of goofy things. And so, those, she can't purchase from you. And so, that matters as well. Make sense?
And your course goes through all this stuff.
Yeah.
Because I looked at it. It's pretty detailed. I looked at a lot of the different things, and we'll go. I guess my next question would be, do you think there's a market for seasonal product to sell to buyers?
Of course, there's a market for just about any type of product, right? Sometimes you got to flip a product around that, you know, maybe the buyers are saying no to you in one category, and you flip it around and put it in another category, and all of a sudden it starts selling. So for seasonal products like summer, winter products, stuff like that, or, you know, there's a buyer who buys seasonal products, by the way, at chain stores. And there's a buyer who buys typically at a lot of chain stores. And there's a buyer who buys products for holiday. Usually it's kind of separate, sometimes together. So they're buying holiday products. So say your product's pink, maybe you can sell it to the holiday buyer instead of the main buyer, because it could work for Mother's Day or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like certain holidays.
Right.
So you can kind of flip it around. Like I've seen people, I had this one woman who had a cosmetic product and the whole world selling cosmetics. So we asked her, like, what is it that's unique about your cosmetic product? And she was saying, well, people who sweat a lot buy my product. And I'm like, why? You know, and she says, you know, a lot of people, and I guess it's because it was thick and it stayed on, and that's why she made it. She really liked that because she was going through menopause. And then she realized that a lot of her customers loved that too. And then also it's sporting, you know, they're working out and they're sweating and they don't want their makeup to be, you know, cosmetics stuff to fall off. So repackaged it, sent it to the sporting goods section. You know what I mean? Like you can do a lot of interesting things. People selling a cookbook. You would think that you would send it to the book buyer, but guess what? What if it's near the grocery store buyer? You know, she could put it near the groceries, you know, because people like that. So there's a lot of different ways to move your product around to support you. So yeah, absolutely. Seasonal or any sort of thing.
I think you talked a little bit about this. How to know if I should go after stores and when should I start?
Yeah, I mean, really comes down to some people just have a burning desire to sell to stores. It's like their thing. They go to their local Target and they're like, God, my product needs to be there. Sometimes it's literally just that. They just can't help but being annoyed that their product's not on the store shelves. And that's totally cool. You know what I mean? If that's like a driving force and you just want the cool factor and just think your product should be there, you know what I mean? It would behoove you to go do something that's pulling at you. You know what I mean? The other reason that, you know, like other times to go after stores is, are you willing to spend a little time to learn something, a new trade? You know what I mean? It doesn't have to take forever or anything. I have clients who work on this once a week, once every 2 weeks, hire somebody to manage a lot of this stuff, but they do help with the, you know, preparation part, with the packaging and these types of things. You know, like, and so those people, if you're willing to do a little extra work to prepare for stores, that could be interesting. Because again, some of the worst products get into stores, some of the best products don't get into stores. It's really more about your strategy and kind of what you're saying to the buyers and stuff like that. But most products I've seen, you can tweak them. You know what I mean? If you go walk around stores and you see that your product's the same as everybody else, is there anything you can do to just improve it a little bit? Sometimes it's just packaging two products into one. You know, really what the buyer's looking for is a product that's going to sell. So if the person's looking on a shelf and you see, you know how sometimes, like, say you're trying to buy a toothbrush and you see a ton of toothbrushes, but then there's one that has a toothbrush with a little bonus, and then you're like, oh, well, maybe I'll grab that one. Sometimes it's as stupid as that. Like, you can combine a couple of things and then all of a sudden you have a new product. So it's not brain surgery. It's just like being an entrepreneur and being a little creative is to, like, you know, once you look,
it's presentation.
Yeah, it's presentation. It needs to obviously make sure that, like, the pricing needs to be aligned. You know what I mean? It can't be like outlandish. There's some strategies around that, but yeah, that, I mean, you know, if you're willing to play around, that's a really good reason. If you're willing not to quit until you get it, you know, most of the time my clients who have great products who don't get into stores, it's not because of the product, it's because of the person behind the product. You know what I mean? They're freaked out the whole time. They're not comfortable. They're not doing any emotional work to help themselves along the path. And then I have someone, like this guy came to me, he had a keychain with dogs on it. The whole world to sell dogs keychains. This guy got into 3,800 Walmarts in a month. How did he do that? And then he got his second product with full floor displays with dog pillows and such. How did he do that? He had a really strong personality and mindset. Not that he was a sales guy, but like his mindset was, oh, I'm putting my product in that store. You know what I mean? He had a really strong, and so he got this stupid keychain into, no offense to the, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
something that wasn't that innovative, and he was able to do it. It happens all the time. It's not always about the product. It's really about the person, like, who's like, no, I'm just going to do it. Just going to get the strategies. I'm just going to handle it. I'm going to get it done. And that's that.
I had a question, but it's kind of, I think you answered it earlier. It says, in your opinion, what box store would you start with and why? And I think that kind of, you answered that with basically, it depends on your product.
It depends on your product. And I like to start with the, like, it depends, again, every product's different, but some of the biggest money I've ever made was thinking about where my competitors aren't necessarily reaching out to immediately first. Like, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people don't think about Sears or like certain stores where like for like a certain type of product. Like, have you walked stores to see some of these random chain stores are selling everything now? And you never think that they would sell that because you're only focused on your top 3 retailers. But if you walk into some of these stores, you'll see that, like, I mean, Ace Hardware is selling like makeup and like everything you could think. I mean, like, these retailers are just going rogue, but because you didn't do your market research, you immediately assumed that that wouldn't be the right place for you. So a lot of times you could be losing out on so much opportunity because you're doing what everybody else does. And so I try to teach people how to think beyond that, because that's where the money comes in. Again, if you are selling a product and everybody's rejecting you, but then you switch it around to a different buyer, you could all of a sudden open up Pandora's box, you know, to all sorts of wild opportunities. You know, are you willing to play with it a little bit?
Here's one of the biggest questions, and that I know that people are going to ask is, what kind of capital do I need to get started?
Really? So Amazon is different than retail in regards to capital. So Amazon, you need to throw down some cash, you get the product, you put it in, you know, warehouse and so forth, and then you ship it out. With retailers, they're dealing with big numbers, right? I mean, initially they'll start with smaller quantities, and as it sells, they'll buy more, and it's more of a progressive relationship as they want to make sure that it's converting. They're buying a lot of stuff up front, and they're giving you a purchase order. So these retailers are used to third parties helping pay for the orders, because they know that you're not going to have millions of dollars in the bank to pay for anything, or, you know what I mean? Like, they're very clear on that. So there's something called retail factoring or purchase order factoring. It's third party companies that you reach out to before you start selling to retailers. So this is like little things that, you know, if somebody explained to you, it makes your life a lot easier, right? So a third party company, you reach out to them in advance. You say, I need someone to be able to pay for my order if I get an order for Bed Bath & Beyond. You set up whatever they're asking, you fill out forms, you set up an account with them. If Bed Bath & Beyond says yes to you, you take the purchase order, you give it to this company based on the agreement that you have, they can conceivably pay for the entire order. And when you get paid, they get a few points off the top of the PO. Why do they do that? Because they know they'll get paid.
Right.
They know that this company is going to pay them. So, and they're happy to make money like that all day long. You know, they understand how retailers operate. They know which retailers are going to pay them, which one's going to be annoying. They probably have understandings about all the different retailers, and they say yes or no based on that. And the most interesting part is, most of the time, you don't need to have great credit to be able to work with them, because they're basing it off the retailer's credit. Right. Because they know that they're going to get paid by that retailer. Now, if you killed somebody and you did horrible things, I can't help. You know what I mean? Like, it does happen. But, like, you know, in general, like, if you're a normal functioning human society and you're just about to try and get an order and you set this up in advance, that's what you do. And a lot of times buyers will ask you, did you set this up? You know, do you have this as an option? And they're used to that. So that's kind of cool. But again, in the initial phase, you can do it a lot of different ways. So that's one way. If you're really scared about not being able to pay for it, there's people out there who can help you. It's, you know, you just got to dig around just like anything else and figure out the best terms and just like everybody. And then set that up before you call anybody. The problem people have is they reach out to this buyer, they get the huge order, and then they don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to pay for it. They screw up the whole experience. There's lots of reasons why people mess up and have problems with retailers, because they just didn't know.
And you called those services, what services did you say those were?
There are different names for it, but a couple I can share with you they're called retail factoring, purchase order factoring, and so forth. And again, they vary based on the company and so forth.
Right.
But yeah, I explain it in more detail, but you get the essence of it. The essence is you don't have to freak out about not being able to pay for a full order. Now, I'll tell you that I have some customers who don't want anybody part of any of their deals. And so what they did is they learned strategies on how to go after small stores or individual stores and start building up cash flow that way, and then do it methodically and then get the cash. Like I had a guy who had a light, the world's smallest light, he called it. It's like a little light you stick on your key. And he didn't want any financing. He didn't want any headache from anybody. He didn't like the concept. You know what I mean? He didn't want to go after Walmart and stuff until he felt like everybody has a different personality. In his case, he was like, that does not feel good to me. So what he did was he learned strategies, went to Ace Hardware after Ace Hardware, started opening up accounts because there's certain retailers you can sell on an individual store level.
Right.
And he starts building up his and saved the money. And then eventually got in, I think it was like 250,000 unit order from a major retailer, or more, maybe it was 500,000 units, something like crazy. But he was able to pay for it through his way of being. Now,
right.
It depends on the personality. If that's what you want, there's strategies for that. If you can go 0 to 100 and you don't care and you just want to get in Walmart, that's you. And that's, there's strategies around that. So again, I never force people to anything. You get to pick and choose your game. And, ultimately there's options in all directions.
And all these things that we're talking about right now, these are all in your course?
Yeah. I think it was, this is something I always wanted when I first got started. I just, like, there's a lot of horror stories of people going after stores and then, they're losing their house, whatever you hear, this, I'll never do retail again. Because when somebody's uncle's grandmother told you that was a terrible story to work retailers, you should never work with them. It killed my life. They stole from me, whatever it is, you hear these stories. I just want to tell you that that's an individualized experience. That person might attract things like that in their lives in general. You don't know. Also, maybe they went for it, and when they got the agreement from the retailer, they were so excited to get the order, they didn't actually read the fine print. A lot of times somebody will get an order from somebody and be like, yeah, sure, I'll cover it. But then they didn't do the math properly, and then they lost a bunch of money. Or the buyer's like, okay, sure, I'll buy 50,000 units from you, but if it doesn't sell, I'm sending you the product back. And then the person is like cavalier, or they don't realize that they can have a negotiation with this person and ultimately agrees to that. The product doesn't sell, and then they get the product sent back to them. Yeah, that's disastrous. So there's ways to control that. Not all there will be retailers that will weasel that into the contract, you know what I mean? And there's others that don't. And so every circumstance is different, and you didn't have to say yes. If that was like, okay, all risk is on me, and you want me to give you all these products, maybe we start a little bit differently on day one, so I don't kill my business. You don't say it that way, but you have a way to manage the experience and expectations so that it's a win-win for everybody. And a lot of times people just get too cavalier with chain stores just because it's the cool factor. You know what I mean? And I just tell people, don't do that. It's silly, just because they're a big chain store doesn't mean they always do the nicest things, and there are some that are great. So, some people say, oh, well, I heard that retailers force you to pay for shelf space. Well, no, that's actually not true. Certain retailers are going to squeeze you and others won't. And certain products maybe need to be in a certain area in order for it to sell better. So maybe there's a reason for that. You can say no, but there are other retailers that don't do that. So what I'm saying is when you hear these horror stories, maybe question it a little bit, because they might have boo-booed and they don't want to admit the boo-boo. You know what I mean?
Right.
Same thing as like, oh no, but I didn't do anything wrong. I shipped them products and they charged me back for a ton of money. Okay, but why are they charging you back? Did you take pictures of your product before you sent it out? To make sure that if you can rebut something, if they actually, you know what I mean? Like there's ways to just mitigate risk.
Right.
And the more that you do, just like any other industry, you guys don't have it easy on Amazon. You guys are stealing from each other, and this one's knocking you off, and that one's from overseas, and la, la, la. I mean, there's crazy stuff going on there. Retailers, you just have to be a little bit more cautious and aware. And that's why you guys hang out with each other, to learn from each other's mistakes and stuff. And that's just the same thing with retail.
Awesome. Let's see, you've got, who would you recommend to do this business?
I mean, you know, I deal with all sorts of variety of humans. I have tons of customers internationally who are trying to sell to the U.S. retail market. The U.S. is an amazing place to sell products to. Startups, anybody who thinks that their product should be on store shelves. It can only enhance you. So I have one client. So here's an example of why this is so important anyways for Amazon sellers. There's a story going around about a woman named Leah Cups and her husband. I don't know. Do you know who they are? They did an interview with Leah Cups. Anyways, her and her husband had an Amazon business, and they were selling different types of products. And she had learned from me early on about retail, and she was an Amazon seller. And she understood that after she learned what was going on with retail with me, she understood that when she went to go try and sell her company, the investors were saying, look, we don't want just an Amazon only business. We need an Amazon business that has some diversification going on. So if you're planning on selling your company, we need to make sure that your money is not just on Amazon. Unless you work with a certain distributor, a lot of times they're going to ask you to diversify your efforts in case something goes wrong with Amazon, and you know what I mean? Your money doesn't show up anymore. Diversify. So she understood that when she went to go find to sell her product. And so she started doing retail alongside selling her Amazon products because she wanted to have an exit. And she did that. She opened up Buy My Baby or whatever for one of her products. And that was the kicker to help her sell her company. And she made multiple seven figures off that one deal. Now she's doing it again, and then she's doing it again. And so she includes retail at the strategy from the beginning whenever she launches a product, because she understands how important it is. So she starts early on, even with no sales of the product, simultaneously with retail, because she understands how retail works now. And that's their exit strategy every single time.
So she's flipping businesses,
She's flipping businesses, but the retail part combined with Amazon, it's her own business. She literally launches on Amazon and on retail at the same time.
That's awesome.
And that a lot of people are starting to understand that. So it's like, people ask me, when should I start? As quickly as possible, because with retailers, you reach out, you got to follow up a little, there's some follow up. And if they like your product, what'll happen is they'll, you'll have some go back and forth. If they're interested in the product, you fill out a bunch of paperwork. It takes some time. It's a corporate, they're not entrepreneurs. It's like a corporate thing. And then you got to set up as a vendor, and there's lots of things that you have to do. So it could conceivably take months to get the product there and moving, you know what I mean? Because it just, these are big moving ships, and it's big business, big opportunity. So by delaying, you actually keep delaying your opportunities out longer run. So that's why she understands when she starts and launches a product, she actually knows what's going to do well with retail and Amazon now. She picks those products because she knows that'll help her exit quicker, which is pretty good.
Research. So do I need packaging to get started?
Yes. So one of the things that people get stuck on is packaging. But retailers understand that their clients don't buy products without packaging, right? They touch the packaging first before the product itself. So you definitely need packaging. And there are strategies around that. It's not brain surgery, but it definitely requires, you know what I mean? Like you hiring somebody to complete it for you.
Right. Yeah. And we have packaging for our packages. We had to get that done. How do I start if I'm an Amazon seller? I have no clue how to handle this. That's probably a lot of what Amazon sellers tell you.
Yeah. We have a paint by numbers approach. So, I mean, really just follow the steps. And we have lots of proof of people who've done well. I had one guy who had those glasses that you wear? I wonder if I have them here. Oh, I have them here. Let's see if I can. Remember these? Like you're on a computer and your eyes get wonky. Yeah. Whatever they're called. Anyways, there's a hot thing for internet marketers. So what he did was he wanted to sell those in stores, and it was kind of pricey product. He was killing it online. So he figured out some strategies with us, and then he went after bedding stores, like, you know, where mattresses are sold, because this is a product that you use right before you go to sleep. So for people who don't know, you put these on, and I forgot what it does, but essentially an hour before you go to sleep, it helps your eyes. So ultimately helps you sleep after a day of working with technology and stuff like that. These are called Swannies. But anyways, I wish I forgot the details, but ultimately it helps you sleep.
Right.
He got it into like 500 mattress stores. So there's like niche, you know, opportunities there. Like, how creative can you get?
Right.
Nobody else was thinking about taking these types of glasses and putting in mattress stores, or they didn't know how. So there's an advantage to that as well.
Yeah. And I think that the other thing is the ultimate, you know, surprise of, like you said, what happens if they give you a big order? So what if they say they want to buy 100K units or something, and you're like, uh-oh, now what do I do? I think you kind of went into that a little bit about these places, these third-party things that can help you with financing, which they'll actually put the money up for these chain stores.
They can ask all sorts of things. If you review the contract and it says, I want to buy 100,000 units, and you're responsible for the products afterwards, you just need to double check that they give you information before you complete this. Like, you know what I mean? They have you review, have you sign. It's a contract and it's an agreement. So make sure it's clean and it works for you, first of all. You know, it doesn't always happen that way, but I like to reiterate that because I think it's important for the Amazon seller to understand that, you know, some buyers are pigs, you know, sure, I'll take all your products, but you send them back. She has no skin in the game, you know, like not all of them do that, but sometimes, just like anybody else. And there's certain retailers that are very inclined to do that, like Spencer Gifts. You know, Spencer Gifts with the skulls. Yep. Well, they tend to do that a lot. You know, they're notorious for that. And, you know, some people have been, you know, but they tell you in advance. They have to tell you in advance. So the question was, sorry, I got a tangent there.
I love your personality.
Yeah. I can admit it when I forget.
Yeah, it's just if they were to buy like 100K units or something like that.
Oh yeah. So you get retail. You set that up in advance. They don't usually buy that much for a little while. So it's a progress. Like initial orders could be 500 units, 1,000 units, 1,500 units.
Like test orders.
For test stores, they're top 20 or 50 stores. They want to make sure it converts online. So it's going to be smaller quantities. And then, but then I have some clients who sell on, say, HomeDepot.com, and they make like 300 grand, $500,000 or whatever. It's just fulfilled. Like, it's very similar to Amazon, but it's a different audience. Like, people forget that. Like, Amazon is not the only place people buy. Like, there's a whole slew of other people who are buying everywhere else. Yeah. So prepare in advance. Make sure that you have that set in place, and be aware that they're probably not going to buy that much initially, and then they'll buy a reorder, and then they'll buy a reorder, and then it'll slowly grow. So you're not going to be like inundated on day one. That 50,000 unit order person, that was fairly rare. It was just a perfect storm. You know what I mean? During a Christmas opportunity, and she even turned it down. You know, you don't have to say yes.
And I believe that because of coronavirus and everything that's going on right now, you're going to see, well, you already have seen that the online presence of people shopping is more so now. It probably got a catalyst boost to it once this happened. And there's more and more people that, yes, some will go back to reality at some point, but because there's a lot of people online and they see how online buying is now, you're going to have a lot more retained people that you had before.
Agreed. And, you know, look, when stuff hit the fan, they all went to their local retailers to buy things. There's a lot more love for retailers right now. When Amazon stopped fulfilling certain products because they couldn't handle the, you know, what was happening, you know, a lot of people started opening up accounts in different retailers. Things are changing. I feel like it's really helped the retail front a lot. Unfortunately, it did support the retailers, even though Amazons don't want to hear it. You know, like there is a lot of opportunity right now for the retailers. They've gotten a lot of love because of what happened.
And you have something that you want. Did you want to do the webinar thing?
Yeah. So basically, if you want to learn more and get a little bit deeper training, and actually me teaching a free workshop, I provided you a link for a free webinar you can sign up to. It's a 90-minute webinar. And that's it. So you can learn more, and happy to have you have some free education, and we can, and I think I deep dive into packaging and all sorts of things to kind of just solidify a little bit more about what I'm talking about. Because sometimes, you know, in an interview, you're like, yeah, that sounds cool, but I don't know how this really relates to me, or I have a lot of other questions. And the webinar, you know, you can ask me questions and stuff like that. So that about, you know, about your particular situation. So that's kind of exciting. So I did provide you the link. I could give you the URL, but it's up to you.
Yes. Can you send it to me? Because I'm looking at it. I don't see the link. I don't know if she missed not putting it in here. If my delay that works for me didn't put it in here or not, but I don't see it.
Yeah, I can resend it. Or you want me to say the link? Whatever you want me to do.
You could say it here if you want to, and then just resend it to me too, because it's going to go out to my list as well. So.
Okay. It's retailmba.com/free.
That's easy.
Yeah, free. retailmba.com/free. It's a 90-minute webinar. And it really just supports whoever wants to learn more. And sometimes, you know, you don't always have time to educate through these interviews and stuff like that. So I just wanted to help people out.
So how do people, other than that free webinar you're doing, how could somebody reach out to you if they want to, if they have questions that maybe, a lot of times when I do these webinars and after the fact, I get questions and I can just kind of get them over to you.
Sure. So check out retailmba.com. That's my site, has my contact information. You can call us or email us, KarenW@retailmba.com. Or you can call us 855-RETAIL-2, 855-RETAIL-2. And so those are different ways that you can reach us. And we're on all the social media sites and so forth. I provide you all our links. So we're constantly adding new videos on YouTube, which we try to disperse through other channels as well. So there's a lot of free content out there. Again, I've been teaching this for almost a decade now, so there's a lot of stuff out there for all the years I've been doing it. And I work with a lot of Amazon sellers. Like I've done deals with Amazing.com. I've done stuff with Digital Marketer, a lot of different organizations, Adrian Morrison, like a lot of the big names in the space. You know, helping Amazon sellers over the years. So I kind of know.
Yeah, a lot of those names I'm familiar with. I know the guys from Amazing.com and Andrew Morrison. I know who that is too.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, I can go on Jason Fladlin. I've done deals with all those guys over the years. So you guys surprised me early on because I was only dealing with inventors. And then I started working with Amazon sellers. I'm like, this is a completely different person. Like the inventor is so, like, you guys are much more marketing focused and centric. So I'm like, God, you guys already figured out the manufacturing and all the difficult parts. And all you have to do is tweak around what you're doing and you can crush in retail. Whereas like the inventor just created a product, spent a ton of money, has no idea how to market. You guys are in a really amazing place. And so that's how it kind of started. And so we went down that path for years. So it's been years. I did the amazing deal like almost 7 years ago. So it's been a long time that I've worked with Amazon sellers.
And guys, if you want to check out the website and learn, I mean, there's some great stuff on this retailmbabrands.com. Again, that's retailmbabrands.com. You can go on there and look at all the stuff that she's teaching. I mean, it's got the modules on here. Module 1, developing your retail sales distribution strategies. Goes into a lot of different things about developing retail sales strategies. Chain store fundamentals is in module 2. Module 3, preparing your products for chain store success. Preparing your pitch in module 4. Finding the right buyers for your products in module 5. Complete tutorial on how to find buyers' names and contact information. Guys, everything's in here. You need to really check this out if you're seriously looking about selling on other markets. I think this is something that you guys should be looking into.
I appreciate it. I didn't expect all this love, but thank you. You know, I've been teaching some version of that program for the last decade, and that we keep tweaking it and evolving it. And again, we practice what we preach. So everything we teach, we test ourselves.
Absolutely. Well, Karen, it's been a pleasure having you here today. And again, I'll get this out. The replay will get out there to the to my members, and they'll be able to see this. And hopefully, they'll have some questions that they can get forward to you. And it's been a joy thing. I believe you're here for a reason. I think it's the right timing. I think with the virus, that more and more people need to realize that you got to get some of those eggs out of Amazon. They put all their eggs in that one basket, and they got to be able to be diversified and you know, and go to other places. And you talk more so about the big box stores, which I find is real interesting, because I think people think of that as the scary topic, and what you don't know. And I think that's for a lot of people is the biggest question, is they don't know what they don't know. And again, check her out on that site I gave you, and all the modules on there. And if it's something that you think that is going to help your business and you want to grow, then I can sincerely say that you check out Karen and what she teaches and all the stuff that's on there to help you grow your business. Again, guys, as always, God bless. Thank you for joining us on the show today. Thank you, Karen, again for being here. I wish you the best in everything that you do. Thank you for doing everything you do to help the online world and the sellers, because of people like you and I, we're changing lives out there, and that's what we want to do.